everybody, to this episode of The Monthly Blend, a monthly video podcast brought to you by Next, powered by Shulman Rogers and Connectpreneur. I'm Tian Wong, founder and host of the Connectpreneur community, which is a global community of over 30,000 investors, founders, and business leaders. I'm also CEO of Opus 8, and we help companies and fund managers raise money through our network of over 4,000 accredited private investors, angels, and family offices throughout the U.S. Along with my co-host, Anthony Millen, who's the founder and chair of Next, powered by Shulman Rogers, we're pleased to bring to you this monthly video podcast, which covers trends, information, and interesting research and tidbits, as well as fascinating interviews with game changers and newsmakers here in the Washington, D.C., Baltimore Metroplex. And Anthony and I started this podcast almost 2 years ago as a way to increase awareness of cool, innovative happenings in our region, to break down silos, and to serve as a mechanism to do our part in bringing the region together and to help foster entrepreneurship and innovation here. And today we're super excited to have a conversation with three organizers and co-founders of DC Startup Week. They're leading entrepreneurs and business leaders in the Baltimore, DC region. And this is our third episode where we get to talk about DC Startup Week, which is truly awesome to see the great growth of this very important celebration of entrepreneurship in our region. I'm going to have the guests introduce themselves, but just wanted to announce who they are. We have Seema Alexander, who's the founder of Disruptive CEO Advisory, creator of the Unique Method, trademark, and co-chair of DC Startup Week. We have Rachel Koretsky, who's the CEO and founder of UPace and co-chair of DC Startup Week. And we have Mariam Nusrat, who's the CEO of Grid and Breshna.io. I'd love for the three of you to introduce yourselves. And why don't we start with you, Seema? Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. So, Seema Alexander, my passion is to get entrepreneurs to win, especially disruptors. So, Disruptive CEO Advisory helps entrepreneurs move from the spaghetti stage to intentional growth using a proprietary system I call the Unique Method. The 6-step strategic process to help CEOs and founders make those informed decisions so they're very clear on their brand positioning to move forward and truly disrupt their markets. I've been involved with DC Startup Week the last 5 years. I'm so excited to have this conversation with you guys to share where we are today and where we're headed, because there's lots of excitement coming. So thank you for having me, Tian.
Thanks for being here, Seema. And next up is Rachel Koretsky. Hi, Rachel.
Hi, how are you? Thank you so much for having us again this year. My name is Rachel Koretsky. I'm the founder and CEO of UPace, the #1 mobile platform for community engagement and reservations for recreation centers. So think YMCAs and JCCs. Also the director and co-chair of DC Startup Week. Been part of the founding team 8 years ago, and it's been amazing to kind of watch its growth go from zero to now a community of over 15,000 entrepreneurs and founders in the DMV region. And really excited to be here and share more about what we have in store for the DC Startup Week this upcoming on October 16th, as well as throughout the year.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And next we have Mariam Nusrat.
Hi, Tian. Thank you so much for having me. I am Mariam Nusrat. I'm the founder and CEO of Breshna.io. So Breshna is a no-code platform that allows people to make their own video games without any coding or design skills. So it's kind of like the Canva for gaming. So the big idea is to not only change how video games are created with no code, but also how they're used, which means for purposes beyond entertainment. So education, marketing, social impact video games. Been doing this for 2.5 years. Come at this from a background in international development. I was worked at the World Bank for around 15 years. And I'm super excited to be democratizing content creation with video games.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for joining us, all three of you. And now I'd like to turn things over to my co-host, Anthony Millen, who is a serial entrepreneur, a venture capitalist, as well as one of the nation's leading startup attorneys. Anthony is founder and chair of Next, powered by Shulman Rogers. Next is disrupting the way legal services are being delivered. They offer a unique fixed price structure, which allows for expert legal advice, especially suited for early stage companies. And in the last 2 years, Next has been recognized by Legal Week as the Startup Emerging Law Firm of the Year, and also has been a finalist at the American Lawyer's Most Innovative Law Award, as well as Legal Week's Most Innovative Legal Department Award. Hi, Anthony. Welcome.
Hi, Tian. Thank you. Hi, Mariam and Seema and Rachel. It's really great to have you. For me, DC Startup Week is really, I think, one of the most important and one of my favorite weeks of the year in this region. And I can't believe, as we've been waiting for it, that it's so close, just a couple of weeks, less than 2 weeks. And we are very, very excited for it and really excited to have you on the show and give our listeners a chance to learn a little bit about it and learn a little bit about what to expect this year. So in terms of where I'd like to start, Seema, it would be great to hear from you a little bit for people who aren't familiar with DC Startup Week about DC Startup Week and its mission within the ecosystem.
So I thought about this question, and I know there's a common answer that, there's startup weeks at every major hub in the United States and around the world. But I wanted to do this a little differently. I want you to visualize something. As we're thinking about DC Startup Week, we're thinking about imagining a bustling city, a bustling region where the air is buzzing with ideas and innovation and clinging of coffee cups, because that's what entrepreneurs do, right? Welcome to DC Startup Week. I think we're the city that we want to transform that never sleeps for entrepreneurs. So if you picture this, a community of 15,000 bright minds for every nook and cranny of the DMV region, thousands of which will all be converging under one physical location over 5 days. So we're considering an entrepreneurial festival where ideas can be born, partnerships can be forged, and dreams can take flight, right? And so then if you imagine a student, which we have partnerships with universities, they're sitting next to somebody with a groundbreaking idea, rubbing shoulders with a seasoned investor. You could be a tech guru, in a room with a tech guru that's sharing secrets about scaling businesses, and you're a growth-focused founder gaining so much insight. You could be a founder discovering that missing puzzle, that one piece of golden nugget, that inspiration for a startup when, you're having a conversation at one of our happy hour activations or networking events. That's the magic of DC Startup Week. And our mission, if you will, our quest is to make that DMV, the region, not just a hub for policy and regulation, but the hub for startups where innovation, creativity, and impact collide. Sort of in this explosion of an entrepreneurial, the growth for entrepreneurs, right? And the spirit. So we're not just trying to be a conference, we're really focused on building community. Entrepreneurship was never meant to be done alone. It's actually freaking hard. Let's just be really real. But this is that moment where you can be honest and educate yourself and celebrate other founders, meet other investors and dreamers, not only throughout the 5 days, but we have a vision to continue this going throughout the years, and we'll share later what the vision looks like going forward. So we are really, really excited for the next, I can't believe it's in 2 weeks. And I hope we start to get you inspired to ensure that you're a founder, investor, ecosystem partner, service provider, expert, that you come and attend this year.
When you listen to that description, it really sinks in how important this week is and grounding it is for all part players in our ecosystem. Rachel, you were there at the beginning, and I think, like with any startup, this has been something that you've seen grow and evolve since ideation. It would be great to just share a little bit about the origin story, kind of how this event that people are going to see, this amazing event, how it all started, and just from your perspective, how you've really seen it grow and evolve.
Yeah. So 8 years ago is when the first DC Startup Week took place. It was this vision of bringing the community together around 3 core concepts around education. So getting in great speakers of founders who've been there, done that, who's willing to share their transparent advice of their experiences, of the failures, the successes, the ups and downs, you name it, of entrepreneurship, where everyone can learn and grow with one another. We wanted to bring people together to be able to connect and network and have really meaningful conversations and relationship building. And the third was really about celebrating the startup ecosystem. The founders are here and the DMV startup community as a whole. And every year we continue to grow and grow with those 3 core pillars around the education, the connection, and the celebration. and really looking at continuing to grow. From my personal experiences of being a female founder in tech and as a solo founder of my company, I realized early on how important community is. And I really, truly believe that having a strong community as like your backbone is what will allow you to succeed, will get you through the hardships, the challenges, and celebrate when you have those wins. And that's what you need as a founder, no matter if you're a solo founder, have a core team, a founding team, like we need each other to continue to grow, and community is the utmost importance of that. And we've continued to grow and scale and really communicate that, as well as communicate our vision and our mission to really make DC and the DMV the best place to start and scale your startup. And DC Startup Week is that place of getting involved, but making sure that you really feel a part of that community where you really feel that like this region is your home for your startup. So it's continued to grow and evolve. And now we're over 15,000 entrepreneurs, founders, startups, resources for startups, investors within the ecosystem. And it's grown tremendously with more speakers and more events and more programming year after year after year. The week keeps getting bigger and bigger. It really has become now a festival throughout the week of happy hours every night and networking events and other organizations and partners putting on celebratory events leading up to it, during it, and post the week. So it's really have become a huge for the whole community at large of this is the week where we come together, we celebrate, we learn from another, and really set the stage for what that year is to come of, you know, being an entrepreneur and working at a startup.
You know, you've been able to guide it, you know, from this early start and then through COVID, through online, through hybrid, back in part, you know, now bigger and better than before. So, you know, really congratulations to all of you who have built this amazing week-long series of events for us all. Mariam, as a founder, it would be really interesting just to share your perspective on DC Startup Week and from a founder's perspective, and there are going to be thousands of founders tuning in and attending different events, you know, why you see this as such an important and impactful week from a founder's perspective and what you're looking forward to.
In order to answer that question, just a little bit of color to my story, right, and everything. So I've been in DC for the past 10 years, and I am, you know, I used to work at the World Bank in, you know, I mean, it's very policy, international development. I was working in ed tech, you know, across 22 different countries. So DC felt home. Like DC felt like the best place to be. If you're in policy, you're in international development. I went to GW for my second master's. World Bank was across the road. The campus, like, I mean, DC is a strength when you think about policy making and everything. And then 8 years ago, I started a gaming studio as a side project. Because I was like, hey, you know what? Purposeful communication can be fun. One of the first games we made was actually on menstrual health. It was a period game where you're catching pads with a pair of undies and you're busting menstrual myths. And that kind of started this journey of unleashing the power of video games for purposeful communication. And then COVID hit, and, you know, everyone started to rethink their lives and rethink their purpose. And there was this big question of what do I want to do? And do I want to do this at scale? So rather than just a service-based studio, do I want to enter the tech startup world and actually build a platform that could be the next decacorn? Am I going to build the next TikTok for video games? Am I going to build the next Canva for video games? And I started my journey in 2021, being a female solo founder in the DC area. And all of a sudden, the thing that used to be my biggest strength, like my location, DC used to be my biggest strength, actually became, I had so much FOMO, it became a weakness, right? Because I was like, everyone who was doing anything in tech was in New York, was in the Silicon Valley, was in like Austin or Miami. And I just always felt such a profound sense of FOMO because I was like, you know, like, where is the community around me? And I think that especially like both Seema and Rachel said, when you're a founder, there is such an art to this. Like there is so many soundbite advice out there, but really when you start to get into it, the real kind of advice is what comes out of these meaningful conversations when you start to share what you're going through and everything. And I kind of just like built and built that community on Twitter, and I would go into Twitter spaces and find that community online, but I was hungry for it. And the first time that I came across something that was even like remotely close to something that I could call a community was that first time I kind of stepped foot into an event at DC Startup Week. And that was the day that for me, it changed the way I viewed my location. And I was like, you know what? Maybe DC can be a strength again. Like maybe being located in the DMV area as a tech founder can be a strength again. And I think the way DC Startup Week has grown year by year, my conviction in that idea has just grown so strong with leaders like Seema and Rachel. I was at this TV show, which I can't really talk about in public, but I was at this TV show filming with a bunch of other founders, and they were all talking about startup weeks in their own areas. And they were like, oh yeah, you should come to this and you should come to this. And I was like, you know what? No, you should come to the DC Startup Week where I'm going to be a keynote speaker. And that is the place to be. And I actually have friends coming down from New York to attend the DC Startup Week because now the news has spread where it's like, you know what, that's the place to be if you want to meet fellow founders, you want to build connections with investors, with vendors, with other partners in the ecosystem. So I think for me, DC Startup Week is a way that the cake gets bigger and we all get to collaborate. And it's such an amazing spirit where it's not Hunger Games. You're not competing over one small slice of cake, but the cake just got so much bigger because of DC Startup Week, and we all get to collaborate.
That is such a great journey that you've been on, and also just a great way to describe this ecosystem, because I've always found that one of the great unique aspects of the DC region is the community. It's the people who are here and their commitment to each other and to support each other and to help each other in whatever ways they're able to, that makes this so special. When we talk about the DC startup ecosystem and you think about it as an overall system, is there anything else that you know, in addition to DC Startup Week, you're sitting kind of at the center of the ecosystem, and seeing so many people and so many groups are part of your community? What excites you most, each of you? What excites you most about our ecosystem? If there's kind of one or two things from your perspective that excite you most, and maybe this time, Seema, will go back to you.
I think there are a lot of amazing people doing amazing things. The story just hasn't been told. And for me, I work in the world of repositioning founders to help them be able to position themselves uniquely in the marketplace. I feel the same way for the DMV region, right? And I do think we have an opportunity as we continue to build, and we'll talk about the vision of DC Startup Week in a few minutes, but like as we continue to break down, and the word silos is not a right word either, because I think everyone's really positively intended. And, you know, in terms of what they're doing, this is not politics, right? This is a opportunity to bring community together and tell a larger narrative together. And when we do that, all of these ideas about, hey, the funding is very conservative in the DMV and this is happening and this is happening, it's all because the story hasn't been told. And I think one of the things that we're trying to do, and one of the reasons, you know, for me, Miriam and Rachel, when we talked about Miriam, I'm like, she's an emerging tech founder that's doing something big. And we want to share those stories. So there are more of those types of stories that come out of our region. There are a lot of people, again, doing amazing things, but it's kind of, we don't know them. And I think that's our opportunity that I'm really excited about, because I think we can totally change that with the work that we're doing.
Great. That is great. Thank you, Seema. Rachel, what excites you when you look at the ecosystem? Kind of what one or two things?
I think really it is the people that's a part of the ecosystem. What excites me and inspires me, the ones who are the founders that are disruptive and growing, but also how everyone in the DC and DMV ecosystem, I really find always kind of forward thinking of how can I help you? How can I continue to help your growth? That supportive mindset is something that I always find like very inspiring and very special about the DC Startup Week community and the ecosystem locally here. So that's something that I'm really excited for leading up to this week in the region of all those connections and meaningful relationships going to happen, and hearing those stories after the week.
We kind of hearing this theme of people, which is really important. Mariam?
Yeah, so I think two things for me. I mean, first, I'm going to double down on that, the spirit, the collaborative spirit, the people. I think all of these other hubs amongst founders, there's this Hunger Games mentality, which is very much like the race to the bottom. You don't want to share resources. Everyone's like, it's like one investor and 10 founders trying to talk to the same investors. I think with DC, there is a much more collaborative, like everyone rises when the tide rises kind of an approach. And all of the DC Startup Week events, even the pre-events that I've attended, it's been very much that give first mentality that Rachel was talking about. Like, how can I help you? I mean, even it's like we were at this happy hour the other day and we met this founder who literally was like, oh, you should meet this other founder. And then he like brought that founder into the conversation and was like, you should, like, this is how you guys can help each other, just an idea and everything. And I think that's just giving your time and giving your thought is amazing. And I do think that the thing I started with, the proximity to policy is something that's actually a huge strength. And I think this is where the public sector gets its first taste of private sector innovation, right? This is where the public sector gets to see really those emerging tech trends. And I think it's a responsibility, but also this huge opportunity that the founders have of being able to be the first ones to break it, right? And everything. And I truly believe that what Seema is saying, I actually do believe if I was not in DC, the opportunity that I'm getting to keynote at such a high level, to be able to acknowledge and recognize for my work, I think that's not a coincidence that that's happening in DC, and that's happening because of leaders like Seema and Rachel. So I'm really, really grateful for that.
Great. Well, thank you everyone for that insight. And I'm going to now hand it back to Tian.
Great. Thank you, Anthony. So first question for Rachel. Rachel, when exactly is this year's DC Startup Week, and who should participate and why? And how can people get involved and participate?
So DC Startup Week this year is October 16th through the 20th, that Monday through Friday, over 150 events, about 300 speakers across 10 tracks of content, including early stage, growth stage, sub-track contents of Web3 and AI, climate tech and sustainability, mental health, female founders and funders, CBG and food startups. So it really expands all different types of industries, all different types of what founders are building and working on. So there's going to be content that's going to be geared towards you. In terms of attendees, we have founders who are coming, entrepreneurs, people who are interested in entrepreneurship, but kind of need that extra support to go for it full time, investors, community builders, folks who have companies to support startups. A lot of students will also be attending. Anyone that's interested in innovation in the startup ecosystem, we invite you to come and participate across the week. Since we have so many events and programming, over 150 you could choose from, you can come to one, you could come to them all and be there every day with Seema and myself. So you're able to pick and choose on our schedule which events and programs you want to come to, whether that's educational events or one of the happy hours that's happening every weekend. So the best place is going to just dcstartupweek.org, where you're able to register and gain access to the full schedule of the week and being able to really curate what your week is going to look like from there.
Wow. Thank you so much, Rachel. And Seema, speaking of special events, speakers, you got any good surprises planned for this year?
We do. We have plenty,
Right.
actually. Let's start with the pre-event. We have actually we're partnered with Genpreneur for a female youth entrepreneurship event the day before DC Startup Week. So, we can, again, if you go to the website, you'll find out more information, but it's just, we want to bring the youth into this as well. And I think that's really new and different and things we've done in the past, but really want to continue to highlight that. Some of our keynotes this year, again, we have Mariam Nasrat, who's with us, our emerging tech founder keynote. We have Brett Schulman. He's the CEO of Kava. So, from idea to IPO, from local restaurant to IPO, which is going to be a really great story to tell. Seth Goldman, serial entrepreneur from Honest Tea, Beyond Meats, now with Eat the Change. But he's going to talk about how do you go from disruptive to mainstream. And that's going to be a really great conversation. The mayor is also going to be with us, which is really exciting for us. But there are a couple other really new things that I think are going to continue to emphasize the growth of the ecosystem. On Friday, the last day of DC Startup Week, we're hosting the first ever fully powered DC Startup Week DMV Startup Showcase and Business Resource. So on our last day, we'll be at the National Building Museum. Imagine this beautiful trade show-like opportunity where startups can talk about their, what they're up to in the innovations, and then resources that are supportive of startups can start to share more of that. We also have a partnership, and this is a really exciting one for us, with Innovation of the World. And so there is a community book project that has occurred in some of the core cities around the country. DC Startup Week is now going to be a co-sponsor where we're helping identify about 100 individuals in the region that are the most innovative to be participating in this book. And so throughout the week, we're actually going to engage our audience, our attendees, to help nominate one of the individuals through the week to participate in that book. And that is going to be really fun to bring to life. And I do want to shout out Next, because I know you guys are doing this Next raise, which, if you're going from seed to Series A, they have this application focused event, but a really good one if speed dating, what I call, with investors and founders. I know, Miriam, you did sign up for that. Hint, hint. We had Anthony on the call, so we'll give you a little bit of love there. But that's really cool too, right? I mean, that's the goal, right? We're trying to be connectors in ways that we can proactively do it, and then connectors in a way that organically occur through the week. There's so many other really great opportunities here, and speakers from, I can just get A16Z to Noble Reach to Pathway CEO. I mean, we can keep going, right, Rachel? This has been every day we're confirming new folks too. I mean, we're pretty much now solidified. But we have a really outstanding program and excited to get it started.
That's awesome. Thank you, Seema. And I would like to second your endorsement of Next Raise, which is a phenomenal event. And Anthony, congrats to you and your team for pulling off the initial one, which is absolutely phenomenal. It's doing a great service for our community. Miriam, question for you. As a founder, we have a lot of valuable aspects of DC Startup Week, founders and programming. How do you plan to approach this week? Because there's a lot of stuff, right? And how do you plan to get as much as you can out of it as a founder?
I think the biggest thing that I'm right now struggling with is my FOMO, because every time I look at the agenda, I'm I just need to clone myself, have 4 versions of me, go to everything, so I think it is going to be hard because there's so many opportunities, but I think networking is an art that you kind of have to master. So what Rachel said, that curating your calendar, I would almost I'm at least not waiting till the event. There's a lot of pre-event prep that you can do. If you register now, I'm looking at all of my fellow speakers, who's speaking. I'm looking at their LinkedIn profiles. Who do I want to connect with? What are the kinds of partnerships I'm looking for? Are there any Series A conversations I want to have? Where are my users? Where are my partners? So I think a lot of speaker research, attendee research, it's looking at these side events, but then also I feel one of the things that happens at these events is people are very eager to help, but you need to help them help you, right? So it's I think there's those ways where you can make it really easy. So I have my blurb updated. I have my, are you going to give out a sticker? Are you going to give out a contact card? Are you going to do something else that's innovative? What is your QR code going to lead to? Just really basic things that can then just be you don't want someone to take home a QR code that's broken. So it's some of those things that I'm really just prep work that you do before any conference. But I think that the cool thing about DC Startup Week is they almost make it easy for you to curate. So you have all of your tracks. If you're in, if it's Web3 or AI, that's one track. If it's female founders, that's another track. So it's really easy to kind of curate your calendar and get a little bit of everything. It's I treat it like a buffet. So I'm this day I can do this. And then this other day I can do this. And I am deploying our team. We are definitely delegating and divide and conquer. So some of us are going to go in one direction. The others are going to go in the other direction, and then kind of curate it. But I think there's immense opportunity, and the time to start preparing is now, which starts with registering. So yeah.
Well, thank you for that. My last question is for all three of you. Maybe we can start with Rachel, but it's more of a vision question. Where do you feel like you'd like to see the DC Startup Week and the Metro startup ecosystem go in the next few years? You guys are playing such a great role in it. What are you thinking in terms of sort of, your midterm strategy or vision?
Yeah, we are growing and we're building. Our vision is to really make sure that this DMV region is known as this hub for startups and growth throughout nationally, the United States and the world, as well as for people to be coming all over to attend DC Startup Week, which we've already been seeing happening over the last few years. We're continuing to grow beyond the week. Year after year, we always hear that people want more, to ask to do more weeks throughout the year. So this is the year where we're really going to be curating more programming that you're going to see happening month over month. That's going to be both networking and education focused, but really also really focused on how do we connect all the amazing people that we meet throughout the week. Of the thousands of folks, we always have these visions and these ideas of how we could bring people together. So really continuously being able to do that across the year and bringing more resources and tools to really help founders and startups within the ecosystem. So this is the year we're continuing to build throughout like the DMV region, and really making sure that we're continuing to support beyond the week, and really making sure that each year this week just keeps getting bigger and bolder and better than ever.
Awesome. How about you, Seema?
So we'll let you in on a little secret that Rachel and I have been talking about for a bit. And there's a real vision of making DC Startup Week the South by Southwest of the Northeast. And we are, I think, it's been 8 years. Rachel created some amazing foundations, and we've been focused on growth the last several years. We've built some great partnerships and have an ecosystem of founders, but we want to take it to the next level. If we want to reposition DC, we have to bring the innovation and the festive nature of entrepreneurship to the region and get other people excited to say, wow, okay, I got to show up there. I actually learned a lot of that the last couple of years. I've been in emerging tech with Web3 and AI and attending a lot of Web3 events and stuff. It just shifted my mindset of how important community is and how important not just content, but enjoying yourself with each other and being authentic with each other. And I think innovation comes from moments of inspiration. And I think we can bring a lot more to that. So there are partners, and we will say it, Tian and Anthony, we look at you guys to help support us, Miriam too, right? To really bring this vision to life, because this is that holistic approach, partners and sponsors. That's how we're going to do this. And that's why we're going to do this together. And we all rise from the tides then.
Awesome. Thank you for that. And Miriam, how about yourself? Do you have any ideal sort of concept of where this ecosystem can go in the next few years?
Yeah, I think, Tian, one of the cool things about DC, which I feel like is happening in other regions, the walls are already up in other regions, right? The communities have already been formed. It's very hard it's like showing up at a party when it's already 9 p.m. Like the circles have been created. Like how do you enter a conversation? I think the DC party is at 6 p.m. Everyone's kind of looking around, and you can form your circles now, right? And everything. The walls aren't up. And I feel like one of the cool things about this ecosystem is rather than it just replicating any other ecosystem, it can become an ecosystem where everyone has a seat at the table, whatever type of entrepreneur you are. I think we see a lot of diversity and experience and all kinds of diversity that we see in the kinds of founders that are in this DMV ecosystem. And I think I feel like there is that huge opportunity where DC Startup Week and the leaders that are on this call can step in and allow this to be that grounds up movement and everything, the bottoms up, like grassroots level, built by the ecosystem for the ecosystem. So I think to me, what would be really exciting is an ongoing year-long, not that you have to wait for that 1 week, but opportunities that happen throughout the year, be it Pitch Fest, be it founder meetups or whatever, but then also just resources. I think resources right now are a little bit scattered. You don't know, where there's so many cool programming that's happening, and sometimes founders don't know where to look. And I think founders give up on DC even before they start looking, right? It's like, well, I'm in DMV, there's nothing going on, so I'm just going to go look somewhere else. So I think having those central resources, having that come together, and I take full responsibility. Like as a founder, I'm happy to take whatever role in that. But I think we're on the right direction, and I think it's going to be very, very exciting being a DMV founder over the next 5 years.
Amazing.
Awesome. I totally share your enthusiasm, and Seema and Rachel, for sure, you can count on Anthony and me to do whatever support you guys need over now as well as throughout the years. And with that, I'd like to turn things over to Anthony, who will wrap it up for us. But thank you guys for joining us today.
So I started when the episode today talking about this being the week I'm most excited for during the year. And hopefully everyone listening today now understands why the countdown starts the week it ends, waiting for next year. And thank you to Seema and Rachel for your leadership in all of your efforts. This is a Herculean effort to pull this together, and to you and your team and everyone who's bringing this to life for all of us to be able to benefit from. And Mariam, thank you so much for providing the founder's perspective, and so impressed with what you're building and really excited to follow along your journey of growth, and look forward to seeing you all on the 16th and at some of the pre-events. And thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having
me so much. Thank you so much for the opportunity. See you all on October 16th.
Thank you guys. Yeah.
Thank you.
Very exciting.
Awesome. Thank you. We can't wait.
Thank you, everyone.